Hey friend, it's MJ from the Coaches Panel. I hope you will. Here a little earlier in the week than normal. Unfortunately, no strategy session, but still, we got our weekly top 10 trade targets for you in SuperCoach, meaning as we head out of our final multi-buy round and our last chance of best 18, we got plenty of trade targets for you to hit. I got some popular names. I got some downgrades for you. And if you want to get some separation and unique, hang till the end, because I got somebody that I guarantee you nobody is talking about this week except us here at the Coaches Panel. My number one trade target, he's going to come as no surprise to you. He's not yet on the bubble, but the reality is at 99K off the back of a 133, how can we not talk about Tom McCarthy? His debut was simply outstanding. He's given the West Coast Eagles something that this rebuild is lacking. He's added some speed, some dare, and then some skill set to be able to execute, especially by foot off this half-back line. It is a one-game sample size, but he has revolutionized this West Coast ball movement in one game. It's incredible. Now, is he going to be a 130-plus scorer every week? Of course not. But the reality is this week, by getting into him, you're getting down to the lowest possible available cash option. You're getting a fieldable option clearly for the week to help you get to those minimum 18 green dots on field. But for a lot of coaches, they're kind of stretching their way through to options on field that they can have out of the bye. And I think for at least one more week in round 17, McCarthy is fieldable for you, whether it be at D6, at M8, or in that flex position. It's an absolute no-brainer. Can you wait the week and get him on the bubble? Yeah, of course, but I think the score on field this week, as well as the cash freedom that it allocates for you, is arguably more powerful and helpful for you this week than it is any other week. Look, he's already at 31% ownership, so a lot of people jumped in blind, knowing, barring injury or suspension, he's going to play every single game for the rest of the year. Mature age option. Love what I saw. It's an absolute no-brainer. Jump in to Tom McCarthy. My number two trade target for you in SuperCoach this week off the back of a 121 and a 107 heading into the bye. It's Callum Mills. Let's not rule out this Sydney team just yet. They are getting some cavalry coming back. Callum now over the last couple of games. Errol is back and Tom Papley, you can throw that name into the mix. Under 400,000, a break even of single digits. This is the perfect player to get in SuperCoach. Again, whether it be at that D6 because you're scrimping and saving to get money off the likes of a Buslinger or a Gray, maybe you're still rolling around with not much cash generation and looking at ways to get decent players on field. Mills is this pathway that I think historically we can have confidence that he's going to be this sort of 90-plus guy, whether he's in the inside mids, off that wing, or now where he is, at least in this game and that Richmond game, was almost a general inside their defensive 50. He took some kick-ins, he's intercepting, he's using the ball well by foot and rebounding nicely. Again, it's only been a couple of games, but I've loved what I've saw in it. To get a guy that has got the pedigree of 110, is coming off the back of 110 plus averages over the last 2 weeks, let alone what he's done a handful of years ago. I think it's a gift that you just can't ignore. He's already gone up a little bit in cash. It's not too late, but after this week, I'm going to rule him out as somebody because you clearly prioritized others. He's your perfect D6 or flex option if you're looking for some breadth and some width across how you get your side sorted. Oh, I'm pretty happy to jump into Callum Mills as my number two trade target. In at 3, I'm going for the guy that has just been the best SuperCoacher, well, maybe of the last decade, but certainly of the last 5 years. Marcus Bontempelli. It is rare to get a guy that feels like the safest 120-plus guy in the game at under 600,000. And friend, that's where you find yourself right now. He's fresh off a 177. There were some question marks after that St Kilda game that maybe he's not got it in him, but politely, he's like, we're whooping you, St Kilda, by 5+ goals, 6+ goals, 10+ goals. Who cares? And it just didn't matter, right? Has a point to prove, comes out, knocks the Tigers absolutely on their feet. And he's coming up against a Sydney team that while you might think Jordan rolls with him. This Sydney tag is not as A, impactful, or B, it's not the player that they would send to anyway. 109, 135 and 131 is his last 3 games against the Swans. To get what I think is one of, if not the best Supercoach scorer in the game at under 600,000 with a break-even of 102, now is the time. Still 1 in 3 coaches have him. It's much higher in higher competing territories of the game. Just jump on and get him. This is what you hoped for, getting him under 600K. Don't delay. Get the best Supercoacher in the game. And maybe you've already got him. Then let me give you a couple more names. This is the last time I'm going to put this guy in my top 10 trade targets because, again, the ownership is so high, the value is so good that if you miss him from now, friend, I can't help you. But let's help you one last time. In at my number 4 trade target this week, at 550 plus K, it is Nick Daicos. Yep, time to get the magician. 110 average for the year is way below what our expectation was, but he is turning the corner. And last week, a 157 against the heavy tag of Marcus Windhager. He was electric last weekend, and I just don't see him slowing down anytime soon as Collingwood look to propel themselves deep into another finals run. They've got the West Coast Eagles this week, and while Nick's only been in the league for a few years, let me tell you this about him and the West Coast Eagles. His career low against them is a 123. Yeah, he is an amazing scoring prospect. The week after that, they come up against Carlton, who right now, using the last 5 games of data, are the 4th easiest team for inside mids to score against. And you might be like, well, George Hewitt will go through. Well, Hewitt's not really tagging. And also, didn't you just have that concern about Windhager last week? He's a much more restrictive player than what Hewitt has been lately, and he absolutely smacked him. And then the week after that, he's got the Gold Coast Suns. They are one of only 2 +10 matchups based on DVP for inside mids. Let's just put it plain and simple for you. The best team to have an inside midfielder against over the past 5 to 10 games in Supercoach has been an inside mid playing against the Gold Coast Suns. So he's got the Eagles, who he's got an unbelievable career average against. And then 2 next matches are against 2 of the 4 easiest inside midfield teams. Friend, do not miss your chance to get your hands on Nick Daicos, because at 56% ownership and a break-even of 77 and just over $550,000, tick, 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 it's all lining up. And if you miss him, it could hurt. And then the last guy to round out my top 5 of the top 10, I'm not hesitant to put him there, but all the data points would say he belongs here, but just keep an eye on that shoulder. Who am I talking about? Jason Horne-Francis. Mid-forward, he's now at the price point that you'd hoped to get. Again, under $500,000 is where you want this absolute star of a mid-forward option. 1/3 of the top 1% own him, so super unique in the upper echelons, and only 1 in 4 across all of Supercoach have their hands on him. So unique. Yes, he was under duress with that shoulder, really limited in his midfield minutes, just the 21% of centre bounce attendances, and yet still knocks out an 88 last week in a pretty underwhelming performance from the Sydney Swans, really beating up on them at a bunch of different times. Pretty underwhelming performance from Port Adelaide, to be fair. When I look at this matchup against Carlton this week, remember I just talked about one of the easier midfield matchups is Carlton at the moment. Well, that's who they're playing this week. But this is also a real 8-point game for both of these two teams. While probably with just over 2 months left to go in the season, it's probably unfair to cross out the loser of this game. But you'd almost get to this point where you go, you know what? I just don't know if you're going to cut the mustard and sneak into that 8th or 7th spot, which is largely where these teams are hoping to be able to squeeze into. I'm fully expecting the Hornet to absolutely come and tear this game apart. I'm all in on Jason Horne-Francis. If you held, it's been handy. I don't mind trading into him. Yet the shoulder injury does have a little bit of concern, but the fact is Port Adelaide are going to be chips in, and to get an absolute star of the competition in Supercoach, in our forward lines at under 500K. It's awesome value. So my top 5, the best downgrade option of the week is Tom McCarthy. The best value kind of premium, for sake of a better phrase, or value defender, is Callum Mills. Then it's Bont, then it's Daicos, and then Jason Horne-Francis at under 500,000. Let's head towards the top of the best options in your defensive line. Nazih, Wannani, Miller. He is my number 6 trade target for the round. Over the last 3 games of all defenders, he's got the 3rd highest average. Who's above him? Max Holmes. All right, fair enough. Tom McCarthy, who's just had the 1 game. So really, it's him in that spot. He's one of only 3 defenders over the last 3 games that have gone 120 plus. He's been absolutely exceptional for us this year. Half of the top 1% of SuperCoach own him. So he's creating some uniqueness in that upper echelon for those in the chasing pack that don't have him. It's the one guy that's probably creating a bit of pain. He's just finding ways to score every single week. He's got a pretty good matchup this week for halfback, for playmakers, one of the easier matchups for players against Fremantle. If I was coming up against him as a unique in my side and I was the owner, whether it be in a league matchup or looking at those in the top percentage, I'd feel confident about this one. And if I didn't have him, this is the defender that I'm getting a little jumpy about, because he still really hasn't put a monster game together. And it just feels like it's building. It could be this week against Fremantle. My number 6 trade target this week, Nazih, Wannani, Miller. Let's give you 3 more unique, well, not unique, although they are on the unique side, some of them. 3 more value options in the forward line that could be flex picks. And then I'll give you a premium mid to wrap up the episode. In as my number 7 trade target, Dylan Moore. An average of 108 in his last 3, an average of 94 in his last 5, and at under $430,000. You basically drop 200K on the head of a Kai Lohman and you're in to Dylan Moore, a player that before this year has had 3 years of averages 91 to 98 over the past 3 years. So uber durable, uber consistent, 91 plus for the last 3 years with a ceiling of really knocking on the door of that 98. So to get a guy at under 430K that is coming in with that average of 108 in the last 3, 94 in the last 5, which is a reflection of his prior 3 years, yeah, this is looking good. Importantly, some of that ceiling we've started to see has returned over this last 5 weeks. And part of that is off the back of him spending a little bit more time through the midfield this year as they kind of protect and cover. His ability to add pressure and speed around the ground as a high half forward is now starting to impact through that midfield. I love this selection. I know a lot of people are a little jumpy about parts of their forward lines. They want to get Darcy, they want to get Jackson as kind of those barnstorming uniques that are coming home with the wet sail, and I absolutely see that. But history would say you're getting about $50,000 to $100,000 of value based on Dylan Moore as a 90-plus average guy, going 83 for the year. But really, you're getting 10 to 20 points per game of value, and he's going to jump up in price. I really like this one. If you're a little bit on the upgrade budget, he is the guy to go to. I'm happy to make that call. My number 8 trade target is Zak Butters. Again, like a Nick Daicos and a Marcus Bontempelli, I know there's only so many of these uber premium mids you can get your hands on, but I'm just letting it out there for you to know that Zak is still ripe for the picking. The break even and the average are almost identical, giving you some indication that this is pretty much the space he's going to be, which is knocking on the door of that 600K price point. And he's going 125 in his last 3. It's rare to get a guy that is a 120 plus performer under 600K. And we've got a couple of them this week. Bont is clearly a number 1 priority for me over the 2, but Butters I wouldn't sneeze at all. He's been outstanding since coming back from his injury. Absolutely happy to get my hands on him. He's one of those kind of best buys, not just for value, but best buys for scoring in the premium mids. And I've already talked about this role for Port Adelaide through the Horne-Francis conversation, but Port are clearly pushing for one last finals attempt under a Ken Hinkley, at least for the next 4 to 6 weeks before they can rule themselves out entirely. And Zak's going to put the team on his back, that is for sure. Off the back of a decent score again last week, I'm happy to get into Zak Butters if I could. And then let's go 2 forwards to wrap up the podcast. Last week was prime time to get him, but a 144 last week was an outstanding performance from Sam Darcy. That was the perfect time to get him, but now is still okay. He is my number 9 trade target, Sam Darcy. If you look at the games he's played in full in 2025, he's actually got an average of 114. That's got him at the top of the tree of forwards this year. And the matchup's not great. And so that's probably why he's lower in these top 10 than maybe his form would suggest of the last couple of games since coming back from injury, or the seasonal average when you take out that injury-impacted game against St Kilda that happened early. I think it was in round 6 or 7. But over 450,000, an average already of 102 with that injury in the role and a break-even of 19. It's really hard to stop him. Just ask any person that's played or opposition fan that's gone and watched. The way you can prevent Sam Darcy, it's actually you've got to restrict the quality of ball delivery from that Bulldogs midfield, which is really, really hard to do given the names that roll through there. If he's getting even a fighting chance, he's going to be hard to beat. So I'm happy to put Sam Darcy in the spot. The matchup's not awesome. It's a negative matchup for key forwards against the Swans. But if the Bulldogs can get some of that midfield dominance, it might not matter how tough the matchup is. He's that much of a unicorn that anything could happen. He's still cheap. He's very, very attainable. And there are some matchups over the next 8 weeks after this one that as a non-owner, if you don't have him in the rank or the league battle, would scare the bejeebers out of you. He is an absolute animal and a SuperCoach freak. And if you got him last week, well done. If you don't, he's still attainable, not as cheap as others might have wanted him to be, but to get an absolute SuperCoach beast, I'm happy to jump on. There will be some scoring variance. There will be some 70s and 80s, but politely, haven't all our forwards done that for us this year? And he's shown just as good a ceiling as anyone else. And then my number 10 trade target. Do you remember at the top of the episode, I said, I've got a unique one for you? How about this? In the top 1%, only 6 coaches own this player. That hits the unique. Like less than 5,000 coaches own this player across the league. It's 2% ownership across the league. But again, if you're in contention, only 6 coaches have this guy. He's coming off the back of these last 4 scores: 99, 106, 120, and 123. And he's got a awesome matchup on paper, not only this week, but there's at least 2 or 3 other games that if I was an owner of him, I would feel like he could fill his boots. Do you know who it is yet? Comment below if you do. Here is who I'm talking about. At 451,700, Ben Keays is my number 10 trade target. Remember, I just ran through those stats around Ben Keays. 99, 106, 120, 123. And in fact, 5 of his last 6 games have been 90 plus. He's been outstanding in this really good stretch of form that the Crows are currently in. They've got a Richmond matchup this week. They've got a West Coast in about 4 or 5 weeks' time. They've got Melbourne after this game, North Melbourne, which doesn't seem to be as easy as it was at the start of the year, but who knows whether or not they've got energy in the legs when it comes to the final round of the year. Regardless, this is the type of player that I would love to have as at the flex spot. Now, of course, my preferred flex is Bontempelli, right? We want the best player in there. But this is the kind of guy you want. Unique and has that ceiling of 120 plus performances about them. Because if you can get that kind of pairing, it's perfect for SuperCoach where one of the worst scorers fall off. And honestly, yeah, Ben on his day can absolutely stink it up. That one game that I kind of skipped over of the last 6, it was a single-digit score against Collingwood. He just went complete tag mode. So, yes, he's prone to a stinker. But if it's in your 23rd spot, you're looking for unique, you're looking for ceiling, I got you, friend. I'm suggesting you Ben Keays. Here's the deal. If you watch this episode and I name any of the players that you are trading into, you got to like the video. Plain and simple, you got to do that. But I do want to know what your trades are this week in SuperCoach. Why don't you comment below and let me know? If you're just new to the Coaches Panel and haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you do so. Just click that button, turn the notifications on. It's a super easy thing to do, but it makes a big impact for us. And of course, if you've been following and watching the Coaches Panel right throughout this season or pre-season, you haven't subscribed, friend, help a brother out. All you got to do, click that button. It makes a huge benefit and a huge impact for us. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Can't wait to read and find out what trades you're making this week. In the description of this episode are all the details about where you can get in touch with us across social media, get your hands on some Coaches Panel merch, and also join our Patreon. They get exclusive content, access to some hidden community groups, and a ton of other stuff. All the details for that and more in the description of this episode. Hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting. Thanks for getting involved. We can't wait to help you with your SuperCoach side. Anytime you want to watch it, just come on back. Anytime you want to get involved with us, come on, join in. We can't wait here at the Coaches Panel to be chatting with you again real soon.